Hi, Zizaran here. So with Delve introducing Ancestral Warchief, I wanted to make a new Warchief guide similar to the Chieftain ones that I have made in the past. I did take a look at like the old Chieftain, but I figure with the Scion Hierophant node getting slightly reworked, so now it gives +1 totem instead of just from totem from health sockets. That has been in for like a few patches. It's going to be really good. You're still going to get leech from your totems, and you do get the third totem. The pathing is really solid, and they've added some node reworks as well now that I will explain. The build is intended for beginners, should be really easy to follow and strong throughout the game, and should be really easy to do on solo self-on as well. You might be stuck using two-handers for a while until you find a facebreaker. They shouldn't be too hard to chance as well. You can just use Orb of Chance on strapped mitts and add that to your filter. In the if you're using Neversinks, just add it to the chance. Yeah, add it to the chance section. So this build should be really good for mapping, delving, Uberlab, Guardians, and Shaper. I don't know how it's going to do against like Elder and Uber Elder. That's not something I've done with the build before. So it should still be really strong. You do get really big leech, which is really nice to stain. You want to get Path of Building for optimally following this build guide. It's a build creation tool. It makes planning and managing builds a lot easier. I also include gem setups, gear setups, and leveling paths in the Path of Building link. You can download POB. I'll put a link below in the description. For Bandits, you kill everything. Kill them all. 2 skill points. Pantheons, you do Shikari. The minor node is really good when upgraded. Makes you immune to poison. The Soul of Ralakesh is really good when doing lab and stuff. Makes you take less damage from traps. Everybody should have that every time they're doing lab. Major node is Solaris. It's really good, and everything's usually worth upgrading. The skill tree in the guide will be really easy to follow. If you look at these tabs down here, I start out with like at 9 points you have it like this, 26 like that, and I do it like 19, 24, 34, 46, 60, 78. I also have the ascendancy points added as you go. And then we have 2 endgame trees, one for Bringer of Rain and one for Sixing Chest. So with the Sixing Chest, you're going to be using an item that makes you want instant war cries. So there's a few differences there. I'll explain that later as well. And yeah, it should be pretty easy to follow. I also have like skill sets with like leveling gems and then item sets and stuff like that. Right, let's see. So something I want to explain is the new minion nodes, which are really good. And they're surprisingly good for this build. And I'll explain why. So if you look at this here, increases and reductions to minion damage also affect you. And then here you have increases, reductions to minion attack speed also affect you. And what that does is any like minions gain increased attack speed or minions gain like 15% increased damage, that'll affect you, which in turn affects your totem. Your totem is not a minion, but it does work like this. And you can see it in POB that like this node gives like 70,000 damage. What's really nice about this is that it lets you have generic damage as well. So whether you're using two-handers, like before I would recommend that you would like, until you get face breakers, you spec into like cleaving or Razor's Edge or like depending on what weapon you find while leveling, right? However, now we have these generic minion damage nodes, and then you don't need to spec out of those later when you get a face breaker. It also makes it really nice, especially for solo self-on, where say you're using a mace and suddenly you find a really good sword or a really good axe. You don't have to change anything. And you could pick up, for example, Butchery while leveling, which I have like as an example here. So that's really, really nice. It's very, very tanky. You get lots of resist here, which you can spec out if you don't need it. However, even though you do have this node, the minion damage support gem will not do anything because that is more minion damage. So that won't work. It only increases. So very specific there. So that means that, for example, if you get increased minion damage on a jewel, that will work. So for gear, we have a lot of options. Like I said earlier, we have like the Bringer of Rain option. It's really good, especially if you're on solo self-found and you manage to find one, or you can target farm it by farming the Gladiator Divination card, drops in Arena. So that's really good, especially if you like get unlucky and you can't get a 6-thing or you don't find a 6-thing. If you do, like, you have some options with like there's a lot of good chests you can use. You can use Lore Weave, you can use Belly of the Beast, you can use rare chests, shaper chests, elder chests, stuff like that. You do have some options. And for helmets in the 16 chest, you can use Abysses if you're feeling ballsy, or your softcore. And maybe ballsy there too, I don't know. You also have Died Below as a really good option. So you get a 20% increased attack and movement speed, which is really good. Especially now when we have this node here that makes war cries instant, which is really nice. Will be really big quality of life there. So during the earlier stages, you do want to get Flat Fizz on all your gear, especially if you're using a Facebreaker, not as important if you're using a two-handed weapon. But yeah, Flat Fizz is big, especially endgame. You want to get Steel Rings, stuff like that. Great Old One's Ward is really good to get. And then you have Megan Ords as well, can be pretty useful. I would prefer getting a good Stygian because you can get really good Abyssal Jewels, but they can be pretty hard to get as well. Oh yeah, if you're using a Bringer of Rain, you can disable the chest by putting on a chest first before putting on a Bringer of Rain. It can be either 6-socketed with the gem colors you already need, or a Tabula, and then you can level gems in that. They will still get XP even though it's disabled. You can do the same thing in your weapon slot. However, it has to be red. It has to be redded out. So for example, one idea is you can put on a wand that uses like 200 int, which you not gonna have on this build, by putting on like a 60-70 int lapis amulet or just something. Just put on a wand and then take off and put back your normal gear later. Then the wand will be red, but the gems in it will level still. So that's really useful for leveling gems, and then you can sell them. Like, don't know what's gonna be expensive this league, but that's a pretty good tip. Now, mana can be a bit of an issue as well, so if it is for you, then you can pick up something like Mana Flows can help a lot. Rallying Cry helps a lot as well. Once Delve starts, something you could think about doing would be to run the Purity. You'll most likely be using the Purity Herald, especially once you're Facebreaker, because that is Flat Fizz. You might not even need Hatred, and then you'd have a lot of mana, a lot easier to manage as well. And yeah, mana regen on gear as well would be pretty decent if you get something on your ring. So that is something to think about. Essences of Contempt as well would be really big for the build. That's like the best essence you can find. You're going to use them on amulets and rings. One idea early on is you can use Blood Grip as an amulet. It's got like 10 to 20 Fat Fizz and life, so it's really, really good early on. But most of your gear is just going to be rares. And then you have some like flask options as well. Like generally make sure you're immune to bleed, immune to heat, immune to freeze. And then you want to have a Quicksilver and a Divine, and you can use Lion's Roar, Zeri's Promise, and you can use Taste the Hate as well, which will make you tankier. Now, I don't include resist in my guides. Just make sure your resist capped. Get 75%. Remember, you lose resist after killing Kitava in Act 5 and then again in Act 10. You do want to be resist capped. Very important. So some tips for that, you can get like up to 50 resist on a jewel. So you can get all res and then like hold and lightning. Really, really useful for leveling. Speaking of jewels, for normal jewels, you want percentage life on generally everything. Damage-wise, you can get increased damage, increased totem damage, minion damage because of the skill I talked about earlier, skill tree. Area damage, melee damage, attack speed, attack and cast speed, attack speed while holding a shield, global physical damage, and physical while holding a shield. You do have a lot of things you can get on jewels. Should be very easy to get 4 stat ones. I've only included 3 stat ones in the POB. And already with like this is like fairly decent gear, not like you can definitely get a lot better than this. So this is like a lore weave, perfect facebreaker actually, but even like you can play around with it and see how well it does like on a super budget. So this is per totem, which means against Shaper, you have 1.2 million DPS with this gear. And even with like super budget gear, you have at least like 800,000 or 900,000 DPS. For reference, I had 300,000 DPS total when doing Shaper for the first time. So 3 times more than that, should be really smooth, and you have the leech as well. And yeah, for leveling and just generic gameplay, the build should destroy everything. It's not super fast, it is totems, it's clunky. You don't get like an insane amount of totem placement speed like Hierophant would get, for example. But yeah, it should be really good for delving and just generic everything except maybe Uber Elder. Once you get the Path of the Marauder skill tree here, you can, for example, get rid of this. Yeah, Path of the Marauder lets you like start Why is that happening? Oh, right. Unconnected here. You can unconnect here and get rid of that, for example, to save some points. So just remember, you need to like connect to Marauder Star instead then. So it depends how much resistances you end up needing. But yeah, that should cover everything. If you have any questions for the build or something isn't working out, I should be able to fix it. Just drop by my channel at twitch.tv/Zizaran. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the build and try to die less than I do.